Good morning. This morning I thought I might start doing something about the end of this wall. I didn't really have an idea what to do about it. The curve going onto the new extension, I just put this basic bit of plaster and paint down to support the tracks, but I wasn't sure what to do about it. And then I thought I might do a sort of a hill slope back down again from the older tunnel mouth, and that seemed to be a good idea. Then I found on Thingiverse something I wanted to try, and it is in fact, if I pick that up and bring it around here, this, which is a tunnel mouth. And most of the things on Thingiverse in O or HO scale don't seem to be very good, especially textured things like stones and bricks. But these did seem to be quite good, and I thought, I'll try that. So this one actually did seem to work out quite well. And then I slapped a coat of paint on it, on the other one, just really roughly slapped on, and it doesn't look too bad at all. When this is weathered and finished up, I think they're going to look quite nice. This one I did 100%. It's very heavy because it's solid. The other one is not, and it was a lot quicker to print, of course. But having done these two, I thought, well, I could put them here. So what I thought was, if I put one there, stand up, and the other one by the signal box, I can make a short tunnel, sort of match the other one. They're effectively the same size, in fact. The other one's a Metcalf kit, of course. And then I thought I'd build up a hillside in that sort of area, and it would look quite nice as a join and cover up the corner of the wall. So let's see how we go. After some little while of fooling around with paper and things, this is basically what's going to happen. Of course, you have to have your trusty vacuum cleaner around the place, because this goes all over the place when you cut it. Still, never mind, it should be all right on the night. Here we are building up the layers of polystyrene. Very roughly, it's actually hollow. All the bits that were cut off and left on the floor are just being used as bits of edges anywhere I like, as long as I get a decent straight edge inside the tunnel. I'll do the outside the same, of course, because all this is going to be finished off with plaster and sculpture and whatever. I've seen a really interesting thing on YouTube. I'm trying to find it. I watched it through about a month ago. A guy who makes rocky escarpments out of blobs of plaster. He's obviously a brilliant artist. I'll try and put a link to him underneath this video. That's what I'm going to try and do. He blobs lumps of plaster on any old how and then sculpts them down when he's got a base like this, and I'm going to try and do the same thing. So this just needs to be built up with all the bits that were on the floor. I've stuck it together, in actual fact, with bathroom sealant. I had a bit left in the tube of transparent bathroom sealant. It'll stick just as well as anything else, so that's what I'm using. Use what you have, why not? And yes, I have remembered to run a train through there, or at least a longish carriage, in this case the 121, to see if it fits, and it does. So, got to let that dry and start sculpting. So this is as far as I've got now. Put a top on it, and I've used the packing out of a box, also in polystyrene, to build up the top of it, make some lumps on it. I'll build it higher later on. It's been stuck down with plaster. The plaster to a medium wet, and bit by bit I'm going to cover it with a basic sort of coat of plaster to get the form, and then put the rocks onto it if I'm lucky. I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but I'm going to try. Okay, so it's the next day. Actually, it's the next day but one. I wasn't here yesterday. And here is my wedding cake, if you like. It's just layers of polystyrene built up in any old how from bits of box and all sorts, and plaster on the top. None of the rock finish is applied yet. I'm going to do the edge today, this scarp, this which is running outside, protected the track, as you can see. And now I've got to sort of get on with it, really. This is going to be difficult to get the stick on there, but let's have a go. Some considerable time later, I'm not quite happy with it. I'm getting the idea of how to do it, but I haven't got enough thickness of plaster really to sculpt these things, to cut them in deep enough. The polystyrene is just underneath because of course the second rail is so close. I don't have any room to play. I suppose I could have cut the polystyrene back and put more plaster on. Then again, you're getting close to the tunnel edge inside. I don't know. Anyway, that I've put a sort of very, very dirty black wash on it so I can see where the crevices and things actually are. Actually, you can get carried away with this. I've been fiddling about with this pretty well all morning because you just get caught up in it and start carving. I suppose you could go too far in the end and cut right through it. I have gone through in several places. So, but the polystyrene, of course, being white, doesn't show. It is there, but you can't see it. Got to decide on the final colour in the end, of course. I need some greyish, I suppose. Grey with greeny, whatever highlights. I don't know. We'll see about this later. Anyway, what I'm going to do next is put some more of those little lumps on the top there. So that's quite nice to do. You can put a lot of plaster on and cut into it, carve it up a bit. So I'm going to do some of that next. Right. I'm going to try and show you how to do this, how I do this. Now, first of all, I've got my plaster. You can see it's really wet because, for one thing, the plaster underneath it here has dried out a lot. So I've been at this. So what we're going to do is where we're going to put this stuff, we're going to really wet the stuff down, because otherwise it will just dry on the surface and tear off, and all sorts of problems will arise. Hopefully you won't be able to see my head in this. So let's wet it all anyway. I might need to go there. That. Right. Having done that, I'm going to put that over there, because all we've got to do now with this very wet plaster, I'm doing it left-handed here, is just literally dribble it on here so that it falls down the surfaces that we want to cover any old how. Right, something like that, anything you like. Like that, it's going to be on here as well. I just want it on the vertical surfaces, and lots of it. I want big blobs. I'm going to shape it a bit later on. It's really wet, but I want some thickness on here so that I can cut into it to make the shapes I want. So give it a trench there, I want some here. And some there. It's got to join into there somehow. Blobs there. And on here. Oops, doesn't matter about anything as long as it doesn't go on the tracks. So blobs and shapes are going to turn into whatever we want them to turn into later on. I normally like to do this right-handed, but it's going to go down there. Just chucking it on. Like this. Put some on here. You can always put more on later, of course. It doesn't really matter, just building layers of stuff. If you don't like it, you can either cut it off or put some on. The joys of plaster. I'll put this last little bit on there. I can't see it properly. If you just chop it about a bit, just generally draw sort of shapes in it while it's really wet. It's starting to dry there, so I've got to be careful what I do with that bit. So I'll leave that alone to dry out for a bit, and I can do more outrageous scraping with these stiffer brushes to get some finishing. That's for this bit, that's okay, and I'll get back to you when I've actually done all the scarps, because on the flat use the spoon. On the flat areas, I'm going to build that up a bit more, but there are going to be sort of not exactly grassy, but overgrown flat parts with sort of, I don't know, maybe gorse or heather, not grass, but something different from rocks. The big problem is this, of course I don't like it. I had an idea what I was going to do with it, and as I was doing it, it looks like a plastic toy. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see about that later. Right then, this is as far as I've got. It's about, I don't know, third or fourth day now. I just put a base coat on of sort of brown to see what it looks like. So I put the wash all over it. It's a bit thick actually, I should have gone lighter than that. But I did with a large paintbrush, wetted, go over it again, and it brought out those white sort of highlights. It's too dark. It's going to have some grey on it, and it's also going to have a different sort of finish on the flat parts. So I'm doing this very much on the fly as I go. I mean, making it up as I go along, really. I tried to follow several people's ideas. I'm not a good enough artist to do it, really. On the edge, for example, I picked this up. On the edge down there, what I originally wanted to make it look as if it had worked was to put netting, scale netting over it, you know, like they do on rocky sides that are going to fall onto a road or something. I need to find some mesh that looks about the right scale to do that with, and pin it on the last minute. That was the idea of that. Otherwise, yeah, well, it's a hell of a mess. Get round here and vacuum cleaner under my feet. There's the other tunnel mouth. We'll see how it goes. I'll keep at it. So we've moved on quite a lot now. This is about the fourth or fifth day. As you can see, I'm holding this by hand, so it might shake about a bit. I've tried to blend that edge in. This bit, I've added some rocks and things. There's sort of a mixture. This is what I use down here, and it really is a mixture. It's sort of sawdust and dirt and grit and all sorts of stuff. And here are the rocks. I think I said before, these are actually baked dirt from my land. When I burn the root parts of trees in my fire, very ecological I don't think, when I burn those they leave little bits of baked dirt, and I can smash them up in a mortar and pestle, and I end up with this sort of mix, which is sort of rock sized or stone size or gravel size, sometimes powder size, but very useful and very cheap. I'm still not pleased with this, but when I try the netting, which I haven't yet found, it might look a bit better. This side also is, oops, stop jerking the camera about, a little bit better finished. And not sure why that looks white there, because to my eyes here it doesn't. It must be the glue drying. I expect it is. I've got the two over the top of the tunnels there will have to be dirtied up because steam engines going through there, filthy. Of course, that end and this end, which is blue because of the fluorescent lights. Yeah, so that's got to be done. I've started painting, touching up the inside of the tunnels with black, so that it looks a bit better. Because some parts have rubbed off with me bashing about in there. Just all the mess that you make while you're doing it, of course. You need every tool and every glue and every pot and every colour. And I'll probably edit that bit out, and the camera's running out of batteries, so I think I'll So anyway, still more to do, washing and brushing and mucking about, yeah. Anyway, still more to do, but this gives you an idea of what I've done. I'm not an artist, so some of it looks alright and some of it looks a bit ridiculous, but never mind. I'll show you it again in future weeks when I've actually got the thing really finished. For now, thank you for watching yet again, and I hope to see you soon.